Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and as you can see, I've got the tie on. We've got the Top Hollow music playing in the background. It's probably a little quiet, we'll ramp that up a little bit. It looked like it was a little bit low. Anyway, we got the typical stuff going on because we've got some more Pokemon Sleep news. Now, people kind of thought there'd be something like this coming. We thought it'd be Flower Festival, but they've renamed it. It's now called Spring Festival. We can see we're getting 2 new salads. You can see in the image here. Don't know what to really speculate about this image, but I've noticed this. But anyway, yeah, 2 new salads, and yeah, we got a new event. It's basically a carbon copy of Valentine's Day event that we had, but instead of Valentine's Day Pokemon being cacao, or instead of it being desserts, it's now 4 salads, and instead of it being Clodsire and Paldea and Wooper, it is now Chansey and Blissey. Now, we kind of expected Chansey and Blissey. I didn't make a news video on this because it was just a very loose data mine. Nothing really was really confirmed. But there was some evidence to point towards the idea that the Happiny line would be showing up soon before. And there's a lot of interesting things going on for it. So, what's going on? Well, some Pokemon who collect fancy eggs or pure oil are more likely to appear. 2 new salads are being added as well. And it's a week-long event that is happening from May 5th to May 12th. So that's not next week, because currently we're in Dream Shard week. Next week's a preparatory week. We have an in-between week. And then it's the week of the event after that. Now, as for what's going on, 1.5 times boost to the strength of meals. That's very powerful for cooking-focused players. So anyone who does a lot of cooking should be very satisfied with this. I've also heard a lot of complaints about salads. A lot of people struggle with it, primarily because of the oil. Oil's a bit of a problem, but 1.5 times boosted, it will be salads guaranteed, so it'll be a lot easier to prep your bag. Also, 1 guaranteed Pokemon will arrive hungry every single day of the event. And then also, pseudo-balanced sleep. Very simple, but there are certain Pokemon that are boosted. Greater appearance rate is Happiny, Chansey, and Blissey. So if you really want Happiny, Chansey, and Blissey, you should go to an island that boosts them, because they are the only ones that are greater appearance rate. And theoretically, the ones where there's less other boosted things will help them more. And that is Cyan Beach is going to have the most spawns of them because Greengrass Island's more watered down. Snowdrop Tundra has more options of things that it can pull from for the boosted rates. So I'd recommend Cyan for if you want those Pokemon specifically. But as for the other Pokemon that are boosted, we have Magnemite, Ditto, Togepi, Delibird, Sableye, Swablu, Shuppet, Spheal, Riolu, Krogan, and Cramorant. So base forms, again, nothing that's fully evolved aside from single-stage Pokemon. Nothing that's fully evolved is being boosted by this event, except for the Happiny line. So that's another notable thing. If you want Happiny Candy, that's the only one that is fully evolved that is being boosted. Now, notable exceptions from this, a lot of people are using Shinx and the Luxray line for oil, but they aren't boosting it, despite it kind of being one of the best oil farmers in the game. Probably just because it doesn't have oil at base. So, just like with the Valentine's Day event, there were some Pokemon that were left out of this that had apples, cacao, or coffee. This one is also notably missing some Pokemon that are good for those ingredients. Now, Blissey and Chansey, Happiny as well. It's a 3-stage line. That's pretty nice. As for what its skill is, we don't really have any information as to that, but it's most likely going to be an ingredient specialist. If it's kind of reflecting Valentine's Day, Clodsire was an ingredient specialist. Chansey's probably going to be an ingredient specialist, and there's been a void. There's actually 2 voids that it could potentially fill. Eggs and oil both don't really have any good options. If you were to look at the number outputs of a lot of the famous ingredients, or a lot of the ingredients in the game right now, we don't have much for oil. Let me pull up an infographic here real quick. It's pretty... Oil is, like, struggling. But additionally, eggs is Delibird. Delibird's, like, the one thing. Here we go, I found it. So, if we compare for oil, it is way down here for, like, the best oil producers in the game. Despite, if you look at some of the current best meal in the game for salads takes 66 oil per day, 22 per meal. And even a mono option with no subskills in nature kind of struggles to get that, and it's not really that strong of an ingredient. So even though there's been a lot of options for oil, we've got the Toxicroak, we've got the Luxray, we've got the Cramorant, we've got Ditto, we've got a lot of oil options, but they're all not good options unless you just get amazing subskills in nature. So that's why oil's kind of had a bit of a void. Additionally, eggs. Eggs has always been a difficult one. Because it's just been pretty much Abomasnow and Delibird for, like, real viable options. Beware does shockingly well, compared to how many eggs that a lot of people need currently. But overall, like, pretty much these two have been, like, the two that you go for eggs. And Abomasnow is a Snowdrop exclusive, so it requires you to go to Snowdrop. And Delibird may as well be a Snowdrop exclusive, because it technically spawns at Greengrass. And it's also a 16-pip Pokemon, 16-pip problem there. You kind of get into other things. So it's very difficult to find an egg farmer because it's just like at an island that nobody really wants to go to. There might be fixing that as time goes on. And what's funny is a lot of people think these are going to be egg ingredient specialists. And, well, there's a few reasons why that's the case. Firstly, they're boosting Pokemon that collect fancy eggs or pure oil. Secondly, if we look up Chansey's Dex entry, need I say more? I'm just going to point to this, and need I say more? Also, it's art. It's got an egg on its belly. I think, assuming it's going to be an egg specialist, if they don't make it an egg Pokemon, I think that'd be like giving us the middle finger, honestly, because there's a need for eggs, and there's too much pointing towards it being eggs. But anyway, I digress. So, what do I think its other ingredients might be? Well, I think that it's all speculative past that. Technically, eggs is speculative. But I think it's reasonable to maybe assume that it might have oil as well, because there's a need for oil. I think it's very good likelihood that it's A, eggs, B, oil. That seems like a high likelihood. And if we compare it to the Valentine's Day event, Valentine's Day, they boosted cacao and coffee. And what did Clodsire have? Look at this, cacao and coffee. I think that it's reasonable to potentially speculate. It might not be true, but we'll see. Now, they are introducing 2 new meals. Now, you can't really tell much from the image here, other than I do see some apples in this meal, so apples might be necessary. I see some tomatoes in this meal as well. And this one seems to be more in the forefront, which if we look at the art here, they kind of put the Clodsire Eclairs a bit more in the forefront than the tiramisu. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, this salad is the stronger one, the more focused on one, and this one's kind of like the backup one, just to make the event still interesting to newer players that can't make this meal. Because last time with Valentine's Day, they did that with the corn tiramisu and the Clodsire Eclairs. Now, what are these meals going to take? Once again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's apples. But additionally, I would expect to see eggs in one or both of them. If we look at, once again, the Valentine's Day event last time, the 2 meals they added were these ones. And they took coffee and honey, coffee and cacao. And then, interestingly, the corn tiramisu just took coffee. So, even though they mentioned apples in this specifically, they didn't give us a meal that actually took apples. So, them boosting an ingredient, like the Pokemon that spawn with that ingredient, doesn't necessarily mean that they're boosting an ingredient, or the spawn rate of an ingredient that is actually, like, necessary for the new meals they're introducing. But it means that it's boosting an ingredient that does well in that meal type already. And if you look at desserts, for just comparison's sake, beforehand, apples were in the strongest meal, and they are in a lot of other meals. So I think that's why apples were boosted. If we follow the same line of thought, oil is already in the top meal here, and it's in a decent amount of other oil salads. Not as much as apples are, but we got green grass salad, we got slowpoke tail, spore mushroom, and then obviously the top tier salad currently in the game. So oil might only be boosted because it's just generally useful in salads. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be in the top tier salad that they introduce. But it's possible. So, I think that's a lot of the interesting speculation that can go around this event. Also, if you're wondering, Happiny, Chansey, they're all being introduced with the event May 5th. They're at Greengrass, Cyan, and Snowdrop. So if you want to see them, you want to go to one of those 3 islands. Happini's slumbering, which is expected for a baby Pokemon. And then Chansey and Blissey are snoozing, which is typical of normal types, which they're normal type. Big shocker there. So, maybe Snowdrop, if you want to encounter them. Maybe Cyan. Greengrass, if you're pretty new. Otherwise, maybe consider the other islands for if you're looking for any of these specific Pokemon. Looking through these, personal recommendations, Krogunk is pretty good for oil as of right now. But Shinx, there's an argument to be made for Shinx, and maybe for Blissey if it ends up being good. We'll see. But a lot of these other spawns are not that notable. Like, Shuppet's kind of interesting, but generally outclassed by Pichu. Togepi can be fun, but overall it's too unreliable to do anything, so, like, consistently. But it's fun. So, I don't really know what to hunt with this event. That's just look through the Pokemon yourself and figure out what you want, and then determine a island based off of that. But we've got Delibird and Chansey bursted at Snowdrop, so I think that's where a lot of players might be going. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. Anyway, that's about all I really had to say about this event. It's a pretty basic one, but if you have enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, I did want to mention, this is actually a mini channel announcement relating to this event. This event is coming at a very weird time for me. For those of you that don't know, going into the Cresselia vs. Darkrai event, I took a short break right before hopping back in on the Monday morning of Cresselia vs. Darkrai. This is another event that I'm going to have to do the same sort of thing for. Because that weekend before, I've got a very big life thing going on. I'm actually standing up at my brother's wedding as the best man. So, I'm very happy about that. But that weekend, I'm going to be incredibly busy. So, you're not going to be seeing any videos from me in preparation the couple days leading up to this. I'm going to be shutting all videos down. But then, we'll be right back at it on Monday morning because I'll be done with best man responsibilities at that point. So, that'll be a pretty busy weekend, and I just wanted to make note of that so you guys are aware of that for the channel, especially since it's going into an event week, and you'll probably be wanting to see stuff. I'm going to be very busy that week, so just want to make note of that for y'all. Anyway, yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Down in the description, there's a link to join the Discord. Come join us, hang out, talk about all things Pokemon, sleep, and the like. I also recently added the join button. If you want to support me in that way, then feel free to click it, but as long as you're financially capable of doing so. I don't have any paywalled content, but it's there if you want to support me like that. And as always, I thank you all for watching and hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.